I don't know where to start is a comment I hear over and over again. Let me show you my strategy in my freehand ink drawings. So nothing can be erased, every mark will be there at the end, so we can't rough things out and then erase the bits that aren't in the right place. This church is a great example and a simple example of how I start. I choose an area in the subject I can draw easily in proportion, preferably a squarish or a boxish shape, or something that lets me see clearly and easily and that isn't cluttered by things in front of it, so that I can really work hard at getting those proportions correct, because I'm going to use those proportions to measure the rest of my drawing. So here you can see that having got the width, I've then gone down. Going down, I measure how far I go down in proportion to the height of the square, the box I've originally drawn above. For each of these very different examples and different starting points, I'm going to show a bit slower the start and just explain why and where, and then speed up for the rest of it. Each of these drawing demos is its own video, so if you want to hear me discuss all the issues I've had in drawing each one, you'll be able to find the videos for each one. But for now, I want to focus on where I start, why I start, and the benefits and advantages of starting there. Notice it's also the strategy for progressing. I then tend to move forwards so that I get the closest things then, and then I can fit behind anything that comes behind. And here's the first drawing done. This next example is similarly looking front on at a building, but it's a much more complex building and there is no single architectural shape. However, there is the space between the center two columns, and finding something central is very helpful, and we can use the space between objects as much as the objects themselves. So here I'm looking at, in effect, the rectangle formed by the two columns, the top of the architrave and the bottom of the columns. And so I'm seeking to draw that in proportion. Having done that, I can check whether or not I'm really accurate by adding the detail that's between the columns, because if I can get the detail now in this space between the columns, and that detail fits nicely in proportion to what I see in my reference, then I know that the space between is in proportion. And if I can't, it's an indication that the space I'm now trying to fit the smaller details in isn't right in the first place, and that's why I can't. So I'm working on that at this point. And having done that, I now do something very similar to what I did in my previous example. I start now to move out in all directions, but in this case, clearly I'm going to move out left and right and get this center columns section done, because then I can put the architrave and the pediment on top, and then I can add all of those details. So you can see I go from left to right. When there's symmetry involved, I like to do each part for each side at the same time, bouncing from one to the other. That way I find I make my marks and get my gaps and my heights in the closest possible manner for each side, which creates a sense of it being symmetrical. Adding the detail as I go, and now of course I can align what I'm doing with what I've already done. So if I accurately draw the first part, I can then use that as a measuring stick for all that I then have to do. The starting part is always the slowest and the most challenging part to draw, although I probably don't have to tell you that. For this example, it's a bit more complicated because we're not looking straight on at any of it. However, I still choose the shape, even though it's not strictly speaking a box, that I think is going to be easiest to get in proportion. And I choose this front wall here with the door and the window on each side. So I start at the corner and I make sure I carefully get the angles correct. Notice I don't draw the other end of the wall because I'm not certain at this point where that's going to be. I find it more accurate to move along feature by feature in these sorts of circumstances. So I do the window first, and I work hard at getting the proportions of the window as accurate as I can. I use little dots to help me position the distance and also the heights and widths of the window, as well as the distance from the corner. And then the gap, the jump between that and the doorway, comparing it to the distance between the other side of the window and the corner of the building. I do the same thing then with the doorway, and I'm very aware that foreshortening means that these openings in the wall all get narrower as they move further away, and the angle that we see them at slightly changes. As we move further along, we see less front on and more side on. And so in this way, I continue down the wall, but I also put a dot where I think the wall's going to end up in most cases. So as I progress the features, the doors and windows down the wall, I'm doubling up, double checking, because it is easy to creep slightly wider as we go along. And if there's enough windows and doors, even 0.5 millimeter for every feature can make us noticeably off at the other end. Because I've got tape around the outside of my drawing area, which is the same size as the photo, that actually gives me another reference point too. If I want to use it, I can look in the photo and see how far in from the tape the end of the wall is. So that gives me an eyeball expectation of approximately where it's going to end as well. And these are ways, particularly at the start, that we can train our observation more precisely, more easily. So now we go zip zip through the rest of this drawing as well. I actually put the tape around though, because it gives me a nice neat edge, particularly when there's foliage around the outside of my subjects, which there very often is, because I think it looks really good and that foliage is a great contrast to architecture. And now some of the details, trying to get the effect of the bricks without drawing all the bricks. If I drew all the bricks, all we would see was black ink bricks, because it's important to get the scale of these details correct for the overall size of our drawing. So here's another one. Here is a very different subject next, but the principle is the same. I find the easiest place, I think, to start, and in this case, it's this rounded triangular shape, which is the forward-facing wedge shape at the end of these curling sections that move back in, that when they're all closed up tight together, they hold in the seeds. And what I'm doing again is I'm drawing these first few very carefully, and I'm particularly trying to get this relative size of one to the next and the distance, because I want to establish the width. I'm going to draw actual size, and there are a lot of them, but if I get the first few going, notice in each direction and down a bit, I can also try and get a sense of the overall size, because I want to keep the overall effect, the distance each of these move outwards, to create a shape that looks this sort of roughly kind of heavy bottomed oval shape that we have here. And so now it's a case of continuing to reference off what I've already drawn. But I'm also paying attention that these wedge shapes, they change direction as they roll around the outside of the shape of the pine cone. I see them increasingly side on as they move to the left and right sides. And I'm also paying really close attention to the angle that their supports go back towards the center with. But really, once I start, as long as I pay attention to how far out they come so I get the overall shape, it really falls into place because I put the work into a solid foundation. I could build on it quite rapidly then, referencing off what I've already done. Even though, of course, I can't erase any marks at all. This next example is again a more complex architectural scene where we have a rounded front of a building that we're seeing in two-point perspective. But again, I'm doing the same thing. It's just perhaps a little harder to work out what this starting point is, but I'm using the squarish shapes, although they're kinked at an angle because of the perspective, in the center of the upper floors because they're not cluttered by ground level things. They're simpler shapes, although there is some some architectural decoration in them. And having done those first couple going down, I can then move to the left and to the right, and I can move into them as well. I can move backwards into the building to get the sense of the ceilings of these porch areas that we're looking up, these balcony areas that we're looking up into. And again, once I've got those accurately put in place in relation to each other, I can now reference almost everything else in this drawing from them. And particularly looking at where the lines meet the extreme left and drawing imaginary horizontal lines across to the right hand side and seeing what elements match up there. That's a very helpful way of staying accurate. Again, in this case, this drawing took longer, so there was more work and a little more commitment in the early stages. But then that solid foundation again meant the rest of the building, still with a lot of observation and care, but it was much more straightforward to keep it all in the right proportion. What do you think of it? I'm saving, I think, the most interestingly challenging one till last, but this one's pretty challenging too. These clumps of grasses. Where do you start? Now in this case, I have started with the foreground, with the closest, and I've started with the parts of the tuft of grass that are actually closest to me, because I need to draw everything else behind that. Now this is a fairly complex subject to draw, although the strategy is exactly the same and it's very simple. I draw the closest things first, I try and draw them in scale, I try and draw them well, and I try and create the overall shape, in this case of the clump of grass as well as the values, the darknesses, because we see a lot of the grass as light between dark. So I have to draw the darks. Again, once I've carefully got this sorted in the first place, the rest of it falls into place more quickly. And I don't have to draw the same detail when I start going further away to the left or to the back, because our brain will jump into the closest, most detailed and darkest parts. So if I keep them looking accurate, the overall effect elsewhere will carry the scene and give it a sense of detail that I haven't actually drawn. So let's look at this last example. The Sydney Opera House, one of my local landmarks and icons. Well, in this very classic, iconic, probably side-on view, I start not with trying to draw the base, because that's actually quite difficult, but rather I start with the largest sail, as we call these, and I work at getting the angles as accurate as I can, and then I draw the smaller sections, again, these wedge shapes that fill the spaces between the larger angles of the sails. So I'm using the negative spacing, but establishing the value early to help me get a sense, to help me see more clearly, are my proportions correct? So having established this first section, I now reference off those. On my photo, I look to see that next sail I drew, where it joins into the one I've drawn and how far out it comes. And then I draw the little wedge shape that comes next. And then I draw that harbourside most closest sail. And then I go back the other way with these two sails that I think still have the Opera House restaurant within them. And now that I've got the sails done, I find it's far more accurate and easier to work out the platform. I think it would have been easier if I'd drawn the platform first, for it to have gotten too high too quickly. Whereas now I can see the proportion of the, if you like, the height of the platform in relation to the height of the sails, and now I can work really hard to keep it as flat as it really is. And then just to give some sense of the harbour as well, and of the moulding of the concrete platform side. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, I hope this has been helpful. There is no right way to start a drawing, but I have strategies that I find repeatedly enable me to do accurate drawings that fall into place with my hopes and expectations for them most of the time. They give me a good foundation then to progress a drawing where no mark, once I've put it on the paper, can be taken off. If you watch any of my demos, pay particular attention to where I start and see if you can't see why. But as we look at this local creek in flood, you know what I'm going to say. Whatever you end up drawing, however you started, and however it finishes up, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.